You ever get that gut punch feeling where you're grinding every single day, putting in the hours, checking all the boxes, and still your bank account looks like it's stuck in quicksand? Yeah, me too. Until I realized the game isn't broken. It's rigged on purpose. And the craziest part? The people who rigged it taught you to be terrified of the very thing that could set you free: money. Today we're pulling the curtain back on exactly how society trains you to fear cash, so you never even step onto the same field as the players who already know the rules. No fluff, no lists, just a real talk that might flip the way you see everything. Picture this. You're a kid, maybe 8 years old, and you hear the adults around you whisper things like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "Rich people are greedy," every time the topic comes up. It's not a one-off comment, it's a drumbeat. By the time you're a teenager, you've soaked up this quiet belief that wanting more is somehow dirty. Fast forward to now, and you catch yourself hesitating before you ask for a raise, second-guessing that side hustle idea, or feeling a weird guilt when you treat yourself to something nice. That hesitation isn't laziness, it's programming. And the people at the top? They never got that memo. They were raised to see money as oxygen, something you breathe in deep and use to fuel whatever life you want. Here's where it gets wild. The system doesn't just drop these fear bombs and walk away, it keeps reinforcing them. Think about the shows you binge, the songs stuck in your head, even the memes you scroll past. How many of them paint wealth as the villain? The billionaire in the private jet is always the bad guy, while the broke artist starving in a garage is the hero. It feels good to root for the underdog, right? But that story keeps you comfortable staying exactly where you are. Comfortable, broke, and convinced that chasing money makes you a sellout. Meanwhile, the kid who grew up watching their parents flip real estate or scale a business learned the opposite. Money is just a scorecard for how much value you've created for other people. Let's zoom into a moment you probably live every week. You're standing in the grocery store checkout line, staring at the total climbing higher than last month. Your chest tightens a little. You start doing mental math about what you can put back. That tightness isn't about the price of eggs. It is the echo of every voice that ever told you, "Be careful," or "Don't get too big for your britches." The elite don't feel that squeeze the same way because nobody ever taught them to shrink. They see the same rising total and think, "Cool, how do I make the next income stream cover this without blinking?" Different software running in the background. And the sneaky part? Schools double down on the fear. 12 years of worksheets, bells, and gold stars for following instructions, but 0 hours on how compound interest actually works or why owning assets beats trading hours forever. You graduate with a diploma and a subconscious belief that the safe path is a steady paycheck and a pat on the back for not rocking the boat. Safe equals small. The players who end up owning the boat? They skipped that class or unlearned it fast. So if every layer of culture, from bedtime stories to tax season stress, is designed to keep you scared of the scoreboard, how do you even start rewriting the code? That's the question most people never ask because they're too busy surviving the symptoms. But surviving isn't thriving, and thriving starts the second you stop treating money like a monster under the bed. And this is where the conversation gets juicy. Because the first crack in the fear almost always shows up in the tiniest daily choices nobody notices. You're brushing your teeth, half awake, scrolling your phone, and you see an ad for some online course promising 6 figures in 6 months. Your thumb hovers, then you swipe past. That tiny swipe? That's the domino. Most folks think the big money moments are the splashy ones, like quitting your job or dropping 20 grand on a mentor. Wrong. The game flips in the micro moments nobody films. The elite call them default decisions, the automatic moves you make when nobody's watching. You and I call them habits, but they're really votes for the future you're building, one lazy swipe at a time. Let me paint a picture you've lived 100 times. It's Friday night, you're wiped from the week, and your buddy texts about grabbing wings and beers. The bill lands, everybody throws in cash, and you notice the guy across the table, the one who always seems to have an extra story about a new rental property or a crypto play that printed he doesn't flinch at the 40 bucks. You do. Not because you're broke, but because somewhere in the back of your skull a voice whispers, "That could have been savings." His voice whispers, "That's the cost of the network that just handed me my next deal." Same wings, 2 totally different operating systems. Now zoom out. Every time you choose the cheaper flight with the layover, the store brand cereal, the "I'll just wait till it's on sale" mindset, you're casting another vote for scarcity. The muscle memory builds. Your brain gets elite level good at finding the discount, dodging the risk, staying small. The player on the other side of the table? He's voting for abundance every time he pays for convenience, invests in the room, tips big to keep the energy flowing. He's not richer because he was born lucky. He is richer because his default setting is, how do I make this pay me later? While yours is, how do I make this hurt less now? Here's the part that stings. Society celebrates your frugality. Your mom brags to her friends about how you always find the best deals. Your coworkers high-five you for bringing leftovers instead of DoorDash. Feels like winning, right? It's not. It's a gold star for staying in the kiddie pool. The elite don't get praised for pinching pennies. They get compound interest. And compound interest doesn't care how many coupons you clipped last year. But let's not just point fingers at the system. Let's look at the mirror. That guilt you feel when you spend on yourself? The one that creeps in after a nice dinner or a new pair of shoes. That's not morality. That's muscle memory from a childhood where treat yourself was a once-a-year birthday thing. The kid raised in the house where upgrades were normal doesn't feel that tug. He feels momentum. You feel buyer's remorse. Same purchase, different wiring. So the first crack in the fear shows up when you catch yourself mid-swipe, mid-choice, mid-excuse, and you pause. Not to overthink, but to ask one question the elite ask on autopilot. Is this decision training me to think like an owner or like a renter? Renters optimize for today. Owners optimize for the asset that spits cash tomorrow. The pause is free. The new vote costs the same as the old one. But the compound curve on the new path? Stupid. And the craziest part is, once you start pausing, you notice the fear isn't even about the money anymore. It's about what chasing the money might say about you. That's the deeper trap nobody talks about. You're at the family barbecue, flipping burgers, and Uncle Joe starts in again about how nobody gets rich working for someone else. Everyone nods, laughs, passes the potato salad. You nod too, but inside something squirms. Because deep down you've started side hustling, maybe flipping stuff on eBay, maybe building a little digital product, and now every extra dollar feels like a secret you can't tell the table. That squirm? That's the identity trap snapping shut. Society didn't just teach you to fear money, it taught you to fear becoming the kind of person who has it. Think about the labels you grew up with. Sellout. Corporate drone. Greedy. Those words weren't random. They were landmines placed around any path that smells like ambition. Cross the line and suddenly you're not one of us anymore. The tribe keeps you safe by keeping you small. The elite figured out the tribe is optional. You haven't. So every time your bank balance creeps up, the alarm bells ring. Who do you think you are? That question isn't curiosity, it's a bouncer at the door of the next level, and most people turn around and go home. Let me drop you into a scene you've probably starred in. You're on the phone with your best friend, venting about how your boss passed you over for the promotion again. You say, if I ran my own thing, I'd never put up with this. Your friend laughs, yeah, but you're not the entrepreneur type. Conversation over. You hang up lighter because now the idea is dead and nobody's fault. Except the script was written long before the call. The second you floated the idea of building something, the identity police showed up to remind you of your role. Reliable, relatable, risk-averse, safe, broke. Now flip the camera. The kid raised in the entrepreneur house hears the same conversation and gets a different line. Cool, when do we start? No identity whiplash because builder was always on the menu of who he could be. You? You've got one costume in the closet and putting on a new one feels like Halloween in July. Everybody's staring, waiting for you to trip. Here's where it gets insidious. The trap doesn't just block the big leaps, it poisons the baby steps. You finally save $3,000 to invest in that course, that mentor, that first piece of rental real estate, and the voice kicks in. What if you lose it? What will people say? The elite hear the same voice and answer, then I learn and buy the next one. You hear it and freeze. Same $3,000, two futures. And the wildest part, the system rewards the freeze. Your friends throw a pity party. Your parents breathe a sigh of relief that you're being responsible. Social media likes the post about staying humble. Humble is code for stationary. The player who lost the $3,000 posts the lesson, attracts the next partner, and buys the 4-unit building you talked yourself out of. You're liked, he's leveraged. But the crack in this trap is simpler than it looks. You don't have to blow up your identity overnight, you just have to borrow one for an hour. The elite do this all the time. They call it role-playing the next level. You try it once, answer emails like the version of you who already owns the business. Negotiate the contract like the version who's done it 100 times. Spend the $3,000 like the version who knows it's tuition, not a gamble. The first hour feels fake. The second hour feels possible. By the third, the costume starts fitting. And once the identity starts stretching, the money follows. But not before one last gatekeeper shows up wearing your own face. You wake up, feet hit the floor, and before coffee even brews, the loop starts. One question asked quietly every single morning. What is the one move today that the richer version of me would make without thinking twice? That's it. No vision board, no 10-step plan, just one move. The elite don't win because they have superpowers. They win because they outsourced their decisions to a future self who already arrived. You borrow that future self for 60 seconds a day, and the gap closes faster than any side hustle ever could. Picture the first morning you try it, alarm goes off, you're tempted to hit snooze, but the question whispers, would the version of me with 7 figures in assets still be in this bed? You swing your legs out. That's the move. 10 extra minutes compound into the workout compounds into the energy compounds into the pitch you finally send. One swing, one domino, one day. Nobody claps. The bank doesn't text. But the loop is running. Now fast forward a week. You're in the break room, everybody's complaining about the new policy, and the question pops again. What would the owner version say? You don't complain. You draft the email that turns the policy into your new revenue stream. You hit send before the microwave dings. Same break room, new trajectory. The loop doesn't care about mood, it only cares about repetition. Here's where it connects everything we've unpacked. The childhood programming taught you money is scary, so you voted scarcity in the grocery line. The identity trap labeled you not that guy, so you swiped past the course. The gatekeeper guarded the story that kept you small, so the domain stayed unbought. But the loop? The loop is the off switch for all of it. Every time you ask the question and take the move, you cast a new vote. Scarcity loses count, the label peels, the gatekeeper shrugs and clocks out. And the moves don't have to be sexy. Read 10 pages of the book you bought 6 months ago. Send the cold message you've rewritten in your head 1,000 times. Walk past the snack aisle and buy the blender bottle instead. Each one is a brick in the new identity, and bricks don't need permission, they just stack. Let me drop you into the moment it clicks for real. You're 6 months in, bank account still catching up, but you're negotiating your first partnership. The other side throws a number that would have made old you choke. New you hears it, smiles, counters higher. They blink, agree. You hang up the call and realize the fear is gone. Not reduced, gone. Because the loop trained the muscle memory of acting from ownership instead of auditioning for it. See how the fear of money, the identity trap, the gatekeeper story, they all collapse under the same simple pressure. Consistent votes for the next level. You don't out-argue them, you out-execute them. And execution is just decision stacked on decision until the compound curve looks like magic to everyone who never started the loop. So here is the whole game in one breath. Society taught you to fear the scoreboard to keep you from playing. You unlearn the fear one daily vote at a time until playing becomes breathing. The money was never the point, the freedom to direct it was. And freedom starts the morning you decide the richer version of you isn't a fantasy, it's a preview. If any piece of this ride hit home and you actually made it to the end, drop "I'm in" the comments. Not for me, for the version of you that just decided the loop starts tomorrow. You don't need a revolution, you need one move. You've got this.